A vague disclaimer is no one's friend. This podcast will look at episodes in relation to Buffy and Angel as a whole, and therefore contains spoilers for the entirety of both series. If you haven't seen all of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel the series, go and watch them before you listen to this. Remember, you've been warned.
The hardest thing in this world is to live in it.
That's why there's us, champions. We live as though the world were as it should be, to show it what it can be.
The Earth is definitely doomed.
It's Tuesday, so it must be time to return to the Hellmouth. We're going through the Buffyverse episode by episode and a look back at Joss Whedon's iconic shows. I'm MC and I'm here with...
It's Andy.
This is David.
This is Jan.
And I'm Logan.
This week we are talking about The Wish, which is episode 9 of season 3. It was written by Marty Noxon and directed by David Greenwalt and originally aired December 8th, 1998. The Wish. Seriously, what can you say about The Wish?
A lot.
It's one of my favorite episodes.
So great.
It's The Wish.
I know, it's that one that you're yeah. This is a never skip episode, ever.
Yeah, this is one of those, if I want to get somebody into Buffy, or at least explain to them why I like Buffy, I will sit, even if they don't know what's going on contextually, I will sit them down and watch this, because, it's like the Star Trek Mirror Universe episodes. It's just one of those things that's fun to watch them play with the tropes.
Two of the biggest alternate universe tropes. It's A Wonderful Life and the Mirror Universe. That's kind of those mixed together, and I love it. But we open the episode with Buffy slaying a demon, and it's daytime slaying. We don't really see this a lot.
And you don't see it for very long, but I kind of like that. I mean, it's obviously a mask and not a prosthetic, but I kind of like that slimy looking demon. It's cool for just the second we see it.
Yeah, it's nice design.
Have to say, he goes down real fast once she just gets a knife. It's like, there's no fighting. It's like fighting. Oh, just give me a knife. Stab. Dead.
I do get the impression, though, that this fight's been going on for a while. But it's cool that they actually went through the effort of making up a demon to put in this opening. They could have easily made this a vampire.
Yeah, I wonder if, they just decided, let's do something. Since we're doing the alternate universe thing anyway, let's do something different than our normal trope and do a daylight demon thing. So it's kind of it's almost like an early clue to the new direction that we're going to do something a little different.
The bodysuit looks familiar. Is that, it looks like they ultimately reuse it. It reminds me of the demon that the three use in season 6 at the bank when Buffy's trying to get a loan.
Oh.
It may not be the same exact thing, but it reminds me of what he's wearing underneath the clothes.
Possibly. I mean, they do that a lot. They reused the
to.
Gnarl at one point.
Any show that uses this kind of stuff is going to reuse stuff all the time.
You gotta.
I actually think it's really fun when you get shows that reuse stuff from other shows. I know on Firefly, the troop guys wear outfits from Starship Troopers.
They do.
And famously, the original Star Trek production people would raid the trash bins of Mission Impossible across the lot for just bits and pieces.
That's great. I love it.
Thinking about the daytime slaying, I'm just thinking it's since this episode is so dark, once we get into the alternate version of Sunnydale, everything is dark. So it's almost it's very light here.
I think it's definitely was a conscious decision on their part to make it different than our normal slaying patterns.
Since you're bringing it up, when we get to the end, you'll have, the tonal shift is really drastic. And it's sort of bookended by these light, bright, kind of comic bits. The transition is kind of drastic. Not as much at the beginning, but the end, it'll be oh my god, that there's no gradation here. It just goes right from dark to...
Well, we know they have an excellent cinematographer, right? That we praised for his direction. So I think that's definitely... Yeah, the very brightness of it, the colors, all that stuff. I do like that there is a weaving in of the where's Faith, even if it's only just 1 or 2 lines.
I love Buffy in this episode because of that, because she's hey, I'm trying to include Faith. Hey, I'm trying to stay neutral. Hey, I'm trying to mend fences with Cordy. I'm trying to include these people. What we see of our universe of Buffy, well, again, we'll talk about Wish Universe.
Last week, it was kind of bothered me that there was no mention of Faith whatsoever. So I like the fact that this week they remembered that there was Faith. Even if, again, as we were saying last week, that sometimes just one line will fix it all, and they did.
And leave it up to Marty to include that. Personally, I love Marty. So.
And I was actually thinking after last week, overall, I think Buffy's a much better friend to everyone than anyone is to her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Overall,
Yeah.
I mean, like, Buffy really tries to be supportive, and, like, everyone around her, not that they're not ever supportive, but they lean towards being a lot more self-absorbed.
There are lots of betrayals on all sides, but a lot of times they involve betraying Buffy. My most quoted line that I use from Buffy,
I know what you're going to say.
"Your logic does not resemble our Earth logic." I think
Yes.
that is probably the line that I use most often from Buffy.
The only line I use more than that is I took a tiny step in their conclusions for.
That's
Yes.
a good one.
It's the only one I
Yeah.
use more. And actually, they kind of both go together, like, very well.
I've decided that Xander and everyone in his line of sight needs one of our Shut Up Xander t-shirts. Because just stop talking, please.
And Willow. I want to shut Willow up
Oh.
so bad so many times in this episode.
I didn't get to that point until later, but yes.
I do have Shut Up Xander and Willow written there because they are both trying to justify what they are doing so much and try to shift the blame and shut up.
At some point I was just like, just stop talking.
I can empathize with Willow in a I don't want to say a negative way, but just her, like, the guilt thing and I've done something badly and somebody's mad at me and I need to make it all better and I'm going to, like, harass them instead of letting it go. And that's kind of like, I can appreciate that. It's not a good trait, but it's something that I know I'm guilty of. So I was just like, Willow, stop. This is not going to work. I can tell you from personal experience.
We'll get more into that once we get to her and Oz together.
Ugh, but Cordelia sitting there alone.
Oh, Cordelia.
And having to listen to all those messages over and over and over. It's stalkerish behavior. She said, "Leave me alone. I don't want to see you anymore." She made it very clear and she was very direct and she's not picking up the call once. Maybe, but calling over and it's gross.
In real life, somebody would turn the phone off at that point and not let the messages keep going on and on.
Sometimes you just want to clear those damn messages as fast as you can. It is not acceptable behavior to do that. It's absolutely creepy and it's disgusting.
What? Xander? Creepy and disgusting? No, say it isn't so.
I think this is the most creepy and disgusting he's being. And he's like, I called her. Like, yeah, God, I hate you.
Cordelia listening to the messages, it's in that moment, she's very much wallowing in the fact that her relationship has ended. And I have to admit, the first time I saw this episode, I thought Cordelia was working some sort of spell.
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah, I did too.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I still, honestly, part of me is just like, I'm glad they didn't go that way. But I was like, I wish they did. But I do, we talked about this
Don't
last
wish
week
for things.
Right. When we talked about photos in the locker. You don't get this kind of catharsis anymore without printed photos. She gets to cut them up and set them on fire, and we don't get to do that anymore. What you gonna do? Throw your phone in a lake?
Delete.
It's not as satisfying. It's just like hanging up a phone. It's not as satisfying.
It's not as satisfying. I have done the burning of photos. I have done the throwing jewelry that my ex got me down the sewer grate.
Was it a cheap pewter heart?
Yes, it was actually.
And also, to me, like, speaking of spells, it's not a conscious thing, but there's it's almost a ritual to be able to, like, tear those photos or to cut those photos, to set them on fire. And that is actually part of, like, unbinding or, like, removing people from your life spells, because it's a physical act. So, and you can't do that with a digital photo. It's just not the same.
These kids today don't know what they're missing.
Even if you print them out and then do it, it's not the same thing.
The opening credits, and then we go right to Willow and Buffy in the hallway, and mention of Amy. We haven't heard from Amy in a while, and I think they're, like, kind of setting it up because she'll be appearing in a couple of episodes from now. So yeah, Amy apparently said that Cordelia was looking pretty scary, but hot damn, Cordelia!
Oh man,
Jeez
yes.
Louise.
I have a question. This is, like, it's probably me just being not a fashion person, but I saw Cordy in that outfit, and, like, when you see her sort of isolated, it's like, oh wow, look at that outfit. Then she goes to school. Nobody is wearing anything even remotely like that, and like, she looks so out of place.
I think that's Cordy's point. It's armor.
And I think the way they did it in the backdrop of because we have that Cordy standing out in both universes, I think the point of that was to isolate her. That's a really good turn of phrase. Just because you can hear everybody whispering about her. So the character's motivation was to be like, look at me, I'm myself, but better. But in reality, it's more like, look at me, I'm so different from all of y'all now because I have no one.
When we see her in this first scene, and then when we see her later at the Bronze, she's in these red tones. She's very aggressive.
And the fact that it's leather is also, as you said, that's very armory because it's a protective thing.
She looks a little bit like a dominatrix, but honestly, I think they play off of each other because both of these are powerful roles for women.
But yeah, man, she gets out of that car and I'm like, you are the queen.
We have the first appearance of Anya.
Woot, woot.
Yes.
Someone who will
Yay.
be around up till Chosen. This is Emma Caulfield's first appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Funny note, apparently she was not the first actress cast in this role.
Interesting.
There was somebody else, who I don't know who, somebody else was cast in the role, but dropped out when she found out it was only going to be 2 episodes.
As Bobby Singer from Supernatural would say, idiots.
A funny one to bring up, since he was only supposed to be 1 episode. But yes, first appearance by her, and it's called early installment weirdness on TV tropes, where somebody's not quite what we'll see later on. But Anya's not Anya yet. But I've seen theories where it's like Anya, or Anyanka at this point, has formed herself to be exactly what Cordelia needs, and then later on when she is a normal human, she flounders with not being able to like fit in.
That works really well.
Her salespersonship in this episode is actually really good in the way she
winds up somehow upselling Cordy. It's
You see that with Halfric as well. The way she behaves with Anya and other vengeance demons is not the way she behaves when she's acting as a counselor for Dawn later on. She knows that right now this girl needs someone who's pretty dismissive of the people who are giving Cordelia shit. She's clearly worldly in a way that Cordelia is compared to, some of her classmates and the like. So when she's on Yanka, when she's full veiny-faced demon, she's fucking scary.
So I would like to shout out Mercedes McNabb in this episode.
Yeah.
She does a really good job in this episode because we haven't really seen a lot from her outside of just being, the sheep. And she gets a lot more range in this episode. I mean, she's still Harmony, but she's different shades of Harmony, and I think she does a really good job doing it.
And yeah, it's very much Harmony wanting to be Queen Bee as compared to being one of the Cordettes. So she's,
she gets to play a range because she also gets in the Wishverse. She gets to play a different version of Harmony there too.
The producing staff, Joss Whedon, will recognize that kind of range. I mean, it's a smaller amount of range, and work with that person and want to bring them back into the world. And so that's obviously what he's going to do with bringing Harmony back later on.
And poor Jonathan.
I know.
He's just sitting there.
I feel so... He's just sitting there like, oh crap, what's about to happen? And then I think that moment you get where he's got his drink and the camera's solely on him, he's center focus. You see that he's giving Cordy this, I know what you're feeling look. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Wait, that's what we do. Never mind.
What we're going to see is, as they're weaving Jonathan into the season, this kind of behavior and these kind of actions from people just like using him as a punchline and things like that are going to cause what happens in earshot.
It also explains him in Superstar, and even then going into season 6 when we get the trio.
I've always felt that Jonathan was the Scooby member that never was. They
too.
Really should have brought him into things.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hug him there because it's not his fault, and poor Cordy, and he knows what Cordy is going through, and he can't even be like sympathetic or be her friend because she's never going to hang out with Jonathan. She should.
She should. Can we
we move on to the next scene, and it's Willow and Oz, and Willow is being all stalkery and don't like her in this scene, but Oz is such a grown-up.
Oz is amazing.
What he says is really I think it's really indicative of his ability to self-realize how mature he is in a way that pretty much nobody else on the show is. But at the same time, Willow's behavior is not unexpected for a teenager who fucked up and is all sad and please take me back. I will do anything to, first of all, get you back, and anything to stop feeling like this because I feel like trash. Of course, they're all id and hormones.
Oz is incredible, and it's actually a great lesson to watch just generally in life to how to set boundaries and set them firmly without arguing back. I love his line, you want to talk to make yourself feel better. That's not my problem. Great example. If I wanted to point to an example for someone, watch this scene. This is how you set a boundary, and this is how you stay true to yourself without being unkind. Genius. For a show that breaks people's boundaries all the time, It's a genius way of just saying who the character is.
Yeah, I think it's also a very good juxtaposition between how Oz is dealing with Willow and how Cordy is dealing or not dealing with Xander.
Maybe, to be fair to Willow, which we'll find out in a minute, it seems like she listens to him. Oz comes to her to talk to her because he's ready. It seems like she leaves him alone and doesn't call him 60 times like somebody else in the episode.
That's my thing, like Willow's whole, I'll do anything to make this right. Oz tells her exactly how she can make it right by letting him process things. So,
And she does.
I guess she does. We don't really know what happens in the interim between this and Amends, because kind of the first thing that happens in Amends is they get back together. Not that I have a problem with that.
I think one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned in my life, and it took me a long time to learn it, is you can't argue someone out of feelings. Willow's still in the place, and a lot of people are still in this place, that if I say the exact right thing, this person is going to love me again. This person is going to change your mind. The person is going to forgive you. And that's not, like, as Oz says, it's not his problem.
What Oz is effectively saying, as well as all that, is you're trying to do something. There is nothing you can do. As we've said, it's like, great thing is that he manages to say that clearly and succinctly without being hostile about it.
And Cordelia is just having a really rough time because she sees Xander, so she tries to bring in this John Lee guy to try to make it look like they're kissing, I think, or whatever. And, oh my god.
My note here is, oh, Cordy, it's okay. Your family is coming soon.
I've had this conversation with a guy once. Obviously it wasn't like you just got dumped by the school loser, but I have had a guy say to me, I'd hook up with you if no one knew about it.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Me three.
David's just like, on behalf, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's a really common thing to have happen. It's disgusting. Men fucking suck. And her tiny... What? She's just so hurt.
Oh, charisma. So good.
They do such a good job of tearing Cordelia down for more than just Xander dumping her. There's just kind of her entire world is falling apart in this. And even though she doesn't consciously make the wish, you can kind of understand how all of this ends up happening.
Even the people she thought were her friends, her little mean girl group, in a way, she learns a lesson that they never were her friends and they never counted either. So she's very isolated. And she's found out she's not who they thought she was or who she thought she was after this, because she loses them too, which is a good thing in a way.
What are we, 14 episodes away? 14 episodes away from Cordelia getting to where she needs to be.
Yeah, for sure. I love when Anya comes up. Like we said before, Anya's really good at her job. Again, she is being exactly what Cordy needs in that moment. She's like, ugh, Harmony, she follows me around, which of course is going to connect with Cordy, because Harmony used to follow her around, right?
Yeah, and the way it comes off is not like shady. You honestly don't know that, oh, this girl is up to something, because she seems so genuine and caring and concerned at that moment about Cordy, which is what Cordy needs, without being, without the mean girl veneer.
She throws in just enough mean girl by shading Harmony. But she brings up fashion and reading W. Like, she's forming this instant bond, and Cordelia needs anyone in her corner right now. So of course she's going to gravitate to this person that's like, oh, don't worry about those idiots.
She's being Cordy's life raft here, basically.
I do like Anya saying that it was a gift from her father, the necklace, because if you think about the relationship between Anyanka and Dahafran really is her father.
I like it's an actual old thing.
Which is a great line, yeah. Very much like her. I be a while before we can talk about this, but when you look at Cordy's relationship with Xander and then Anya's relationship with him and its eventual demise, it's a very strong parallel. Anya makes her place with the Scoobies, and then she loses everything when he leaves her at the altar. God, man, Xander's a fucking plague. Okay, you know what? Let's move on.
Unfortunately, we can't move that far away from Xander because we move on to the Bronze, and Xander being pretty much a jerk trying to overcompensate.
And I love that Buffy. Again, here's another one I use a lot. Supporto gal. Like when I'm like, I think I've said that to MC when we've been chatting. I'm like, oh, I'm totally Supporto gal. Of course I would say that to you because one, I love you and I'm supportive, and two, it's a Buffy reference. But yeah, she's 100% right. She says Cordelia's in the wrong. Cordelia's the wrong party here. So we're not going to play I Hate Cordelia Club. And if I was Willow, I'd be staying so far away from Xander at this point. I would just be like, we got to take a break from being friends. I mean, unless it has to do with slaying specifically, go away.
I really love this episode as far as Buffy is concerned, because I think it's indicative of what she experienced when she left and her life as Anne and how that affected her long term. You see a very marked difference of her as a person in season 3 as compared to the previous seasons, especially, and it's really obvious in this situation with Cordelia and with Faith, which is why I really love both versions of Buffy in this episode. But
100% believe that between last episode and this episode, there was an unseen scene of Willow officially jumping Xander. Because you cannot tell me that after everything that went down, Xander didn't try to see if he could hook up with Willow officially.
I honestly think she sort of came to the realization once, like, they walked in, she realized she really loves Oz.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Xander doesn't just get to make it all go away and have his friends bolster him up for his shitty decisions. So, good for Buffy, and in a perfect world, Willow would not have been there, but, you know, Allie's in the credits, and they needed her on camera and everything else, so they couldn't... And this, I can sort of understand why she's there despite it all, but I like the fact that Buffy was smack dab in the middle of them, so, and flanked by either one of them, so they weren't sitting next to each other, so at least there was some... As much visual distance as we could give them, given that it's a TV show.
in regards to Andy's, well, why wouldn't you? What's that line from Parks and Recreation that Tatiana Maslany says? You're small enough, I can throw you around. I love me some tiny Seth Green. I'll put him in my pocket, take him out, kiss his face.
Yeah, I think that part of the thing with Willow is it's not just that she's realized that Oz is who she really wants to be with. What came across for me very heavily here is Willow's Jewish guilt is just so strong with this one. It is...
I have a question. So I was raised Episcopalian, which is like Catholic light. Is it like Catholic guilt?
Catholic guilt is
yes, but worse.
It involves more Yiddish, but probably... I mean, honestly, I say it's Jewish guilt, but I've come to the conclusion over the years that, no, everyone has guilt. God, if you have a mother, you have guilt.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or Catholic or an atheist. It's like, if you have a mother...
Hey, Mom, I'm really glad you never guilted me for anything. Shout out to my mother.
Oh, it's not just your mother guilting you. It's like, you just get guilt. It comes free with the package. But the Jewish guilt thing is, it's a trope, it's a cliche,
But it's real.
And it is real. It is real.
Everybody has guilt unless you're Xander, because this is the reason.
Oh, yes.
This is
Shameless.
the reason why I think Xander probably tried to pursue Willow after he realized that he wasn't going to get back together with Cordy.
Mm-hmm.
Xander doesn't think they did anything wrong. He keeps on trying to justify everything that happened and basically make himself blameless. And I like a couple episodes from now when Buffy will call him out on, like, how Oz keeps on giving him looks, and Buffy's like, you had illicit smoochies, like, you're gonna have to put up with some looks.
I do wonder, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here because y'all know, but I do wonder if Xander's behavior is not because, very much like Willow's, trying to talk to Oz and alleviate her own guilt through that way. I wonder if his is not a lot of bravado in an effort to do the same. Yeah. I would hope that would be it.
Oh, well, I do think he is very much overcompensating. So.
Yeah, I think Willow, Jewish guilt jokes aside, I mean, I think she is. She realized that they did something wrong, and she is trying, in the worst way possible, to try to make it all better, because it hurts her. I think Oz knows in the back of his head, but if he could get back together with Cordy tomorrow, he'd be fine with it, and everything would just go on as it is, because that's what he wants, and that's the way he deals with things. And that is not, I mean... He has guilt, but it's a totally different thing, and I don't know whether it's because of gender roles or, you know, ethnic background or whatever, but he's just not, he's an asshole.
Or Xanderness.
Or Xanderness, right. Yeah. At least Willow is like saying, I made a mistake, I screwed up, take me back and I'll do anything I can to fix it, which is still bad, but she's acknowledging that she made a mistake.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But let's talk about the true hero of this series and this scene, and that's Buffy, because Buffy...
Yeah.
That is so fucking good. Like, I'm thinking about, like, how in Primeval, how Xander is the heart of the Scoobies, and I'm like, bullshit, Buffy is the heart of the Scoobies, because she is the one who is reaching out to everybody. And this scene with Cordelia, she's trying so hard, and I think if that vampire hadn't attacked, everything would have been very different.
Charisma has just a really great little piece of acting here. She looks like she's about to soften. It's very subtle. It's very cool. I think Cordy might have actually, like you said, MC, talk to Buffy about it, or at least be more open to that, not as angry. And then the vamp happens, because of course it's Sunny. Vamps are going to happen. Vamps are going to vamp.
Yeah, I mean, actually, this could have turned into a much softer version of the spank your inner moppet speech.
Yeah.
Well, if you actually look at it, I mean, it's in the exact same place.
Yep.
It is very much like a mirror of that scene, except it's Buffy trying to talk to Cordelia, and everything goes really wrong. And I feel so bad for Cordelia, because this is kind of the moment where she separates from the Scoobies officially. Like, maybe if that vampire hadn't attacked and she'd been able to talk to Buffy, then she and Buffy would have been able to have, like, some sort of friendship, and maybe Cordelia wouldn't have stayed in Sunnydale. But maybe there wouldn't have been that hard break that there is, because the only time we, like, ever see her, like, calling anybody in Sunnydale is if something is going on. It's like, there's a bad thing going on, so we're gonna have to, like, share information. Or, why didn't you tell me Harmony was gay?
Harmony is gay? Oh, right. In the episode where she thinks Harmony is all hot for her, but really she's a vampire. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I remember now. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
what Cordy's...
Sorry, obscure references.
What Cordy is doing is, it's very classic transference, right? All of a sudden, then everything is Buffy's fault, when none of it is Buffy's fault. And we know that, but it's
right.
I think it's the only way Cordy knows how to cope from losing someone.
Yeah.
And I think she truly did love Xander, not in that all-encompassing, world-breaking, we're gonna get married someday way, but in that, like, solid high school way of, like, this is... I mean, Xander was really, she dated a lot, but I think Xander was her real first love experience of being in a longer term relationship. So, like, her transferring it onto Buffy, I think, is her way of trying to distance the problem from Xander.
I also think it's a way for her to distance the problem from herself. If she blames Buffy, she doesn't have to include herself in what she sees as lowering her standards and her utmost embarrassment and things like that, which is definitely a lot easier to deal with than...
I didn't make bad choices. I was led to make bad choices.
If Buffy hadn't been here to have me talk to Xander, I would still think he's the loser that he is, and I would be in my queen bee position, and nothing would have changed, and the world would be right. So, yeah, that damn Buffy Summers. Yeah, it's exactly.
Exactly. It's a testament, again, I will sing her praises forever, to how well Marty not only understands her characters, but also teenagers in general, and how people function.
Yeah.
I do think it is an interesting question, though. We're saying that Xander and Cordelia would have been a high school thing, but it's very possible that maybe it wouldn't have been if this had not happened. Because, had they stayed together, we don't know if Cordelia would have left Sunnydale. She might have ended up staying there. And, with Xander getting the job in construction and growing up a lot, they could have very well have stayed together. It's something that we'll never actually know. But I do think it's so funny when you have Anya trying to, do her target marketing and all of the insults that she's throwing at Xander.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she should come on the podcast.
But then we get Cordelia making her wish, and all of a sudden, it's a wonderful Buffy.
It is a wonderful Buffy. I do want to say right here, if we're going to talk about fashion, first of all, the dress, but this is peak Cordy hair.
God,
her hair
so beautiful.
is incredible.
It's
the
great,
wave, how luscious it looks when she picks it up. Again, I warned everybody before we started recording, I'm going to be real queer in this podcast.
That's fine. I'm right there with you.
When she lifts it up to put the necklace on, oh god, peak Cordy hair. It's incredible. And it's like a timeless hairstyle too. I am very impressed with how well it holds up.
This Cordelia, and actually Anyanka as well, are figures that they made for the Buffy the Vampire Slayer line. And it was Diamond Select Toys that did the Cordelia figure. And I am so angry at the way they did it, because they ended up changing the scale, so Cordelia looks fucking massive. But it's such a beautiful look that, it would have been really nice if they had done it in the same scale as all of the other figures.
I give Cynthia Bergstrom so much credit in these episodes because she really deserves it, because her costuming is, like, really great. And setting up, because Cordy is not, this is not a color we see on Cordy very often. It's not a typical Cordy color, and it really mirrors the Easter egg colors that we've been seeing on Buffy and Willow this whole season in Cordelia, when everybody else is going to go dark around her. And it does. She stands out like a little light bulb, but it's, oh God, she's so beautiful. Charisma is so beautiful.
Her outfits this episode in general are amazing. The hot red thing from the bronze is good.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
as in a hot red.
Yeah,
hot
no,
red
I
color.
mean-
Not that she just looked hot. but
Well, I
she
mean, like,
did.
you talk about how you're going to be real queer this episode. Like, I didn't write this down as a note because I was kind of ashamed I thought of it. But when she was wearing that red number from the bronze, I was like, Christmas boobs look amazing.
And they keep looking amazing. They still look amazing. I don't understand.
So I'm going to be annoying, and I'm going to walk into Dave's magic mechanics corner for a moment. Why does Anya give her the amulet?
Okay, there is a lot of stuff about the amulet that does not seem... Like, this is something that I don't think that they keep consistent. Because I think they do change it when Anyanka becomes a demon, when Anya becomes a demon again. It seemed, and I think they did this also with Dawn when she deals with Halfrek, that originally that to make a wish they had to be wearing the necklace.
Yeah, I don't think Dawn actually. I'm pretty sure Dawn doesn't get anything from Halfrek, like a totem
doesn't.
like that.
Doesn't she?
I thought she did.
Yeah.
No, I had to watch that episode because that's
you
the
were
episode
gonna
I
do
was
that
going to
for
write about. So yeah,
Oh.
yeah, I don't think that happens.
Okay.
So I was like watching this, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And of course, as things go on, there will technically be two amulets lying around,
Right.
and that gets weird. And so, like I say, this is they didn't think this through thing. But and I will actually have it doesn't really fit anywhere specifically in the episode, so I may leave this for final thoughts, but I have some thoughts on the whole vengeance demon thing.
It's a wonderful Buffy time, and I actually think it's funny that it's a wonderful Buffy time because this was the episode before the Christmas episode, and It's a Wonderful Life is, of course, a Christmas movie that has very little to actually do with Christmas.
Yes. And I have all kinds of theories about It's a Wonderful Life. I think it's a much more depressing movie than most people do.
It's so depressing. Are you kidding me? For sure.
It
It's
is
very depressing.
I have a whole Frank Capra range of movies theory, but I won't bring it up here because this is not the Frank Capra podcast.
We could do one of those together, actually, David.
Okay.
I do love Scary Veiny Good Fairy.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a good line and a good delivery from Charisma. It's just
Right, and I love how, despite all her experience with the Scoobies, dealing with demons and stuff, she's like, oh, it's a good fairy.
that's her headspace.
This is actually the point of the episode where I get really annoyed with Cordy, because she becomes self-involved to the point of stupidity.
She turns around pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I think she's also, she would rather think she's making a deal with a good fairy than a demon, let's face it.
I think she needs to believe that something good is happening right now because she has been so torn down for all of this episode that she's like, oh, things are finally coming up, Cordy.
Everything's coming up, Cordy.
Also, very weird thing. This is like, there's 2 episodes of Buffy and Angel that basically involve Cordelia makes a wish and then ends up in an alternate universe where everything is bad. Because Birthday is almost the exact same thing, but they're both fantastic and they're both different in their own way. But I love the filming of this is so good because you can tell how different Wishverse is from the normal universe because not only are there less people just suddenly in that scene and everything's dirtier and everything, but they change the
film
coloring.
stock tones. Yeah.
Like the lighting is different.
It's-
Everything is dark.
It's lovely.
Oh, the whole palette just changes.
Yeah. And of course, everybody's dressed in dark colors, but also if you look at the girls, everything there's one girl who has hair that's down, but everybody's a lot more utilitarian, a lot of buns going on, so vamps don't have stuff to grab onto.
Again, Cynthia Bergstrom in the costuming. Those outfits are still really reflective of who those girls are because they're very high style status. Like that's like executive lady realness right there, right?
Yeah.
Harmony's dress I would wear tomorrow. That is a chic, classic It's a great dress. But, the contrast of that, but still keeping within what those characters would wear, because those are all the rich mean girls, right?
Yeah.
As opposed, it's I think it's genius.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the extras that they've gotten, the teacher who's acting all panicky. So like there's a sense of urgency with everything, and just you can feel like this terror that's going through.
Yeah, it's really nicely done.
Yeah.
One thing about the costumes, since we brought it up, have we ever been told before that vampires are attracted to bright colors? I know they stick a line in about it, but I think it's bullshit.
I was going to bring that up later, because that was when it was mentioned, but
I wasn't sure. Well, the reason, Andy brought up Harmony's outfit.
Yeah.
And my thing about that is, Harmony is showing 90% more neck than Cordy is.
That is
no, seriously, like her entire neck and collarbone are exposed. Whereas Cordy is actually wearing like a sweater over her, and her hair is down, so she's actually like almost totally covered in the biting area. Whereas Harmony is just like, come bite me. Look, here's my neck. And I find that just weird in the world that we're given.
Well, I think it's a way, it's the whole predator thing. If they can see you and you stand out, they can catch you better. So there's a logic to it that makes total sense, even if it's not something we've heard before.
But I would think you would still also not want to expose your neck.
Yeah, but they're not looking at your neck. If you think of predators and they're seeing you from afar.
Oh, they're looking at your neck. Because they're everywhere. Yeah,
but I think it's more don't stand out, sort of blend in with the crowd, be able to be in the darkness so they can't see you as well. That's all.
Well, but that's one aspect of it. There's also, if a vampire happens to be near you, he's like, hey, nice neck. I mean, it's like...
I think vampires, it's like no matter what, it's going to be a hey, nice neck, but the way Harmony is dressed with her hair up and she's wearing tight clothes, she can't grab her as easily. There's not like things trailing around, so that if she is running away, that they can't just like snatch onto her. I've read the zombie handbook several times.
Yeah, and it's also just like, hey, look at me, I'm standing out, come bite me, as compared to sort of, like I said, blending in and kind of being...
But that's the thing. Those are all things that you would do. Another thing you would do is wear more modest clothing. Those don't obviate the need to not expose your neck to a vampire.
I don't think Harmony goes outside at night, is ultimately. I don't think Harmony is going to go outside when it's dark.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, there's a curfew. They're supposed to get home.
She can maintain the standard, like, hey, we're going to wear muted colors just in case. But also, I'm still going to rebel a little because it's who I am.
Maybe.
Or, it's an obviously chic outfit, and it shows status also, and if she's not going to go right... I do see both points,
absolutely.
And I think David makes an excellent point about the necking. Maybe David's just really into necks, I don't know.
Also, just thinking about it, I mean, you know how they always talk about mosquitoes, how, like, mosquitoes are attracted to people wearing certain colors? Maybe that's what they're trying to, like, suggest with the vampires?
Like I said, I think it's a predator thing. Like, if we think that the vampires have better eyesight, that they're going to be attracted, or at least their eyes are going to catch on brighter colors than darker colors.
But you also, when you see the vampires later on at night at the Bronze, most of them, I mean, I do want to talk about that because there's just a plethora of decades represented.
We will certainly get into that scene.
But the majority of them are wearing muted colors as well, so maybe there is also if we do get caught after dark, maybe if we're lucky, nobody will notice us long enough for us to get inside somewhere.
Maybe.
I would just wear oodles and oodles of leather, because that's what the vampires wear. I'd be like, I'm going to go wear this whole dark leather outfit all the time. I'd look
just dressed in a cow.
First of all, and say, just dressed like a cow.
I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm sure the real reason for all of this is we want Cordy to stand out, and we want the color palette to be really muted.
Oh, definitely. I think my only problem with this plot point, well, not even really a plot point, but this factoid is that it's never followed up. Like people have debated, it's like, okay, it's true in the Wishverse, does that mean it's true in the real universe? And I'm like, of course it's true in the real universe, it's just they never bring it up.
Maybe it's just the way people create mythology around things they're scared of.
That's also true.
And also in our Prime universe, is what I'm going to call it too. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people are wearing bright colors, right?
Yeah.
So if 10 people are all wearing nice bright colors, not one of them is going to stand out specifically to a vampire or just in general, right? Because you've got a mix of colors in our Prime universe, in our real world, right? Whereas if you're living in a world desaturated and not trying to stand out...
Well, to take a Watsonian stance on things, if we take the vampires are attracted by bright colors thing is true in our real universe, perhaps that is why Buffy dresses this season, as Andy says, like an Easter egg, because Buffy has always played with the idea of the predator-prey, where she almost uses herself as bait sometimes, and it's like, oh no, I'm actually the Slayer, and I'm gonna kill you.
Surprise!
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting point.
Yep.
I really like that.
So they never
That
mention
makes
it,
sense.
but it's in my head. That's kind of like what's going on here. I do wonder why students aren't allowed to drive, because I know they need to get.
Didn't make a lot of sense.
I know they need to get Cordelia to walk home, but it seems counterintuitive to getting people home on time.
If they're in
True.
a bus and it's a state or a county or city coordinated thing, there's probably a checklist, and they can assure and be certain that each child arrives home before curfew.
Fair enough.
Safely.
In which case they do a really
Excellent.
shitty job because Cordy's all on her own.
So I do need to call out the writer and Cordy for her like super casual racism. Just for a second.
Oh.
That's not how you talk. So that I won't belabor the point, but I'm like, that is not good. Bad
Thank you.
Marty.
I cringed so hard.
Yeah.
I do too. I cringed when it happened the first time. I knew it was problematic back then. But then, on Mexican.
No, that was real bad. I also thought, this is besides the point, but he was a not great actor.
No.
His line delivery was not great.
Yeah.
I actually was wondering if they had to loop it or gotten somebody else to do it, because it didn't sound quite right. And it's filmed outside, so it's possible that
Just the audio was bad.
the audio was bad,
The
so
audio
they
was
had to
bad.
redo it. But it just sounded unnatural, so there was just something.
It probably was. Sometimes when things sound unnatural, it's a loop line.
Yeah. But we get Cordelia walking the streets, and they, seriously, I'm going to harp on about the production, but they really did a great job of making Sunnydale look disgusting.
Oh, it's so great.
Yes. And we get our first appearance from Vampire Xander.
Okay, when y'all originally saw this episode, did you just sit there with your mouth fucking agape? Because I know I did. I remember just I think they teased it, in the previews. But again, keep in mind, I've told this story before. I was still watching these in a collection of 6 episodes at a time that my friend was taping off of cable for me. So I didn't have access to previews of next time on Buffy. So I was just like, oh, okay. I was a great surprise for me. I just took myself back 21 years.
I probably didn't notice that as much because I was probably distracted.
Yeah, I know that by the time I saw it, I had actually heard about these episodes, so I think I wasn't as surprised as I would have liked to have been, because it was like, oh yeah, this is the episode where they're vampires or something, and he's Xander, but he looks fucking good.
I was just going to say, I have
That
a
was my mouth
note
agape.
of, am I attracted to Vampire Xander? I can't
I'm attracted
decide.
to Vampire Xander.
Yeah,
At least he has an excuse to be a dick.
Well, that is true.
Well, were you attracted to Swim Team Xander?
No.
No, but he looked I'll admit he looked really good in the Speedo, but not
That's it.
like hubba hubba.
I'm not a Speedo person. I am a leather person, though.
Okay.
So,
You
I
and me
just don't like
both,
the cut of
sweetheart.
his jacket.
Oh.
so
I don't like long line leather jackets like that, so I've always been just sort of like, ugh, I wish it were a shorter moto jacket, but here we are.
there is that, and I like me a pale guy.
Yeah.
Of
looks
course,
really good.
So, he's not bad.
You guys are burying the lead here.
It was a question. It's like, am I attracted to Vampire Xander? Maybe. But then, hell yes, Vampire Willow.
Yes,
Yes.
please!
Thank you.
Second helpings, if you don't
Oh
mind.
my god, yes.
Okay.
Hello, nurse!
I guess I'm the odd person out. I mean, I think she looks really sexy and really cool. And I remember being pretty much like, oh, Willow back in the day. But now I'm like, oh God, Allie, you're like 23 or 24. I'm just not feeling it. Whereas with Charisma, I know she's like 30. So I'm like, oh, Charisma. So that maybe it's just a growing up thing for me where I'm not as attracted to Vampire Willow as I used to be.
Well, I
just like
she's 23 or 24, so I've got no problem with thinking.
Right,
I don't feel skeevy. My tastes run a little bit older now. I guess.
Fair enough.
It's just a taste thing.
But she looks absolutely fantastic.
She looks great.
And that is an incredible costume.
Is so great.
Hallie just looks good in dark colors, and they rarely put her in dark colors in the show because it's not with her character.
We're so used to seeing her in sort of like baggy, not quite shapeless. I mean, granted, as time has gone on in the show, her stuff has become a little bit more streamlined, but we've never seen her wearing something that form-fitting really before. I mean, you know, they usually been hiding her figure under like the bulky sweaters and the cutesy overalls and that kind of stuff. So she looks fucking amazing.
As she'll say in Doppelgangland, oh wow, look at those.
Yeah. And like I said, at this point in my life, I'm not as attracted, but I objectively, like, not objectifyingly, but like, just objectively, she looks hot. Yeah. Like, that is, I love that outfit, and I love that bustier is just so interestingly constructed.
Yeah, with the chiffon stuff over the cups, it just great.
It's a great costume.
Since I already mentioned toys, I'm gonna have to do this again. Hot Topic made a Vampire Willow toy. Funko made a Vampire Willow toy that was an exclusive for Hot Topic.
I don't think I ever saw that.
It came out, it was very early in the Funko line, so it might have been before they were widely available. But it is also like the biggest piece of bullshit because she's wearing a miniskirt.
What?
Oh, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
She's wearing utilitarian leather pants.
Yes.
She looks great in those damn pants.
Yes.
And
of course also Diamond Select Toys did do Vampire, Xander, and Willow, and the Willow figures look fantastic. The Xander figures are okay.
Yeah.
As we feel about the actual Vampire Xander and Vampire
I remember
Willow.
the Diamond Select action figures, but I never bought them, but I do remember seeing those. So.
I have a ton of them. Yeah. They are right behind me right now, actually.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, since we are now to Vampire Xander and Vampire Willow, I'm going to say something very controversial, but possibly brave.
Yeah.
I don't think Vampire Willow is that great in this episode.
No, I was going to say her acting is sort of...
I think, well, and obviously we will get to talk about it pretty soon now, but especially compared with how Allie acts as Willow, I think it works really well in Doppelgangland.
Yes.
But in this, it's such a departure that you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and this one it's kind of a flat performance. I mean, she looks great, but I don't get that she's feeling the really, truly bad girl. She's saying the line's okay, but I don't know. Yeah. It's
a few times I get it a lot, especially when they're fighting in the warehouse when she goes, uh-oh, puppy got out. She did that really well in my opinion.
Yeah.
But, there are moments that are really good. But I mean, I have an admission to make. Since we've been watching this stuff in such detail, my Willow crush is not as strong as it used to be. Because she's getting on, especially right now, because she's getting on my fucking nerves. She is... Because, like, the whole storyline that will not die, I'm just like, I just want to strangle her.
Oh my god.
And it's like, so I'm a little more objective than I probably used to be. So, yeah, the whole Dark Willow isn't overall fantastic yet. It'll be much better in Doppelgangland. But there are just moments that are iconic. Like, Bored Now is...
Which I say all the time.
Which, of course, she says as she's coming out of the shadows. So it's not as much of a physical performance, but the line reading is perfect. And, like, so there are moments like that, and Puppy got out. And, you know, just, like, bits here and there that are fantastic. But in comparison, the performance as a whole is fine.
I'm going to say...
not spectacular.
Probably something mildly controversial, but not that controversial. I think... Allie is not an actress that, and it's not a fault. There are some actors that are really great about getting into a new character and playing something different, you know, that are chameleons, right? And I think Allie is more of a very solid, very emotionally driven actor, works off of emotions well, has really great comic timing, great line reads, but I don't think she's an actor that disappears into every role. She's a personality actor, not a character actor.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's part of the issue here. And again, there's no right way to do acting. I mean, as long as you're good and hitting your mark, there are definitely wrong ways to do acting. But you know what I mean? Like in this case, and it's not something that's in her comfort zone at all. This is not a role that you would actually ever cast Allie in except in this alternate universe.
I give her credit just because, as I say, I think she's much better in Doppelgangland as Dark Willow. So I think once she got her a chance to really wrap her head around this part, she did make it her own.
Yeah. I think that, again, Doppelgangland, she's a lot better. And when she plays actual Dark Willow in season 6, she will be much better. I think this is the first time she's played anything different than the Willow character she's been playing Willow for like 2.5 years at this point. So it can be hard to make that change. And also this episode, like in Doppelgangland, she's playing Vampire Willow, but it's a very comedic episode. Meanwhile, this one's a very serious episode. And also some of the lines that they give her in this
are clunky.
They're hard to like give a good delivery to. So it almost felt sometimes it's like, okay, so you're doing a Juliet Landau impersonation.
Yeah. And that goes for Xander as well. That line where he high fives that dude in the bronze is atrocious.
Yes.
I'm going to walk back slightly what I said as you remind me of Dark Willow, and I think she's become a more confident actor, and I think she works better in Doppelgangland because it is a more comedic performance of Vampire Willow, and we know that Allie is really good at comedy. Again, that was not a diss on Allie as an actress overall.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Just there are different styles of what people do, and people are better at different things, and she's good at light comedy and not as good as Darkness,
And with Dark Willow, it is coming from a place of emotion ultimately, whereas this is
performative.
Her just being evil.
Yeah. It's a performative performance. I mean, that's redundant, but you know what I mean? It's you have to be a little more performative because you're not going to see these characters for a long time, so you need to get like an immediate reaction of who they are and what they're doing in these vampire personas, as opposed to any kind of build-up of those characters. Like Dark Willow, that is built up through an entire season, instead of just like, let me throw you into these like sexy clothes and you do your thing.
I'm perfectly happy for them to throw her into sexy clothes.
That is fine.
And the way you articulated it was really good. The idea that it's she's doing a personality, not a character, and that's her style of acting is really I think that was really well articulated.
But the vampires are interrupted by the white hats, and yay!
I love the white hats.
Speaking of missed opportunities, Larry Bagby in this episode is so good.
He is fantastic.
So
I love
frustrated
him.
That all we got was Meathead Larry as a character, not the actor Larry. Meathead Larry, and then like Graduation Day Larry. We don't get this Larry, who would have been a great, in my opinion, addition to the Scoobies.
I think we get a little bit of it in earshot when Xander is grilling him, thinking that he might have done it, and he's like, I'm so out, my grandmother is setting me up with people. And that's kind of what this Larry is. I love Larry in season 3. We only get to see him like 4 times, I think, over the season, and they're all very short. But yes, Larry would have been a great addition to the Scoobies, and this is why I mourn the fact that they didn't decide to have Xander come out and then have not killed Larry, so they could have gotten together. We need to go to that universe.
In my headcanon of this, in this universe, Larry was not the big jock, right? That we saw him as, and he actually came out a lot sooner and realized who he was a lot sooner, and that pushed him towards this wanting to do good, wanting to do better, because when you're your real self and not hiding stuff, it really changes you, And so I think that was where his character maybe diverged in this Wishverse, is that comfortability of the self. And I love it. And Larry Bagby, the actor, is so great. He's so
he really is good
natural
here.
And charming. And I also headcanon that he's hooked up with Oz.
I was wondering if somebody was going to mention that, because I did have that thought.
Because I assume everybody's queer unless told otherwise. So, like, why can't Oz be bi?
If anybody would be, he'd be super chill about it too.
Oh, yeah.
He would be. He'd be like, I usually like women, but I'm feeling you right now. Let's make out. Like, that's just sort of Oz. I'm right. Oz is so connected to his emotions and willing to explore and evaluate as he goes along that I'd be like, why not?
I do wonder, in this universe, is Oz a werewolf?
I have that
was
in my
wondering
notes
about
too.
that
Is Oz
too.
a werewolf? Yeah. Did Jordy still bite him?
Yeah, and I'm always like wondering about how this is actually the type of alternate universe I love. As a fanfic writer, I know lots of people when they say AU, they immediately go, 2 people in a coffee shop together. But the way I like to do AUs is like
canon divergent.
What if one thing happened and then, how did all of this other stuff go? So I always like to know, how the butterfly wings flap and how everything changes. So I'm like, how does Giles end up hooking up with Larry and Oz, being the white hats and everything? Is Oz still a werewolf?
Oh, I have lots of questions, but I will not air them all here because we'll be here all week.
Yes.
Try the veal.
For God's sake, I'm an X-Men and Doctor Who fan. Alternate universes, time travel, weird stuff. I have lots of thoughts.
Oh, it's crack. It's totally my crack. And I read such a great fanfic, and I'll try to link it in our show notes when this comes out, that J for Jenny, who's a friend of our podcast, put up for her own podcast, and it's all in the Wishverse. And it's a Jenny Giles fanfic about how they dealt with this universe. And I will try to link that because it's very good. It's very
interesting.
That's the question. Is Jenny still alive? Because obviously Angelus never happened. So
Right.
But
I mean, she might not.
But
have
Angel's there, so she would actually be in town.
Okay,
right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
She could actually be.
It's a really good story, well written within this universe, and how Giles and Jenny kind of come together to deal with this universe and be the white hat. So it's very enjoyable.
That would have been nice if they had brought Rabia back to play Jenny in this, but I can see why they didn't, because they need the shock of her in the next episode.
Well, and also, we have such a small amount of time in this universe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why we don't get as much Larry. The time we spend in this universe is actually relatively short, because we have a pretty big build-up with all the Cordy stuff up to the Wish that takes up about a third of the episode.
I kind of wish that they had just not done Amends and they just done this as a 2-parter.
Right? That's so good.
But then we'll get to that next week.
I do wonder, Cordy asks this and it never gets answered. Why is Giles there?
We'll get to that scene in a second. We're going to the Bronze, and
Mark Metcalf, we missed you.
Master. And it's just immediately the sass, and I'm like, I missed you a little bit.
He looks so sharp.
He does.
She's looking at me. I'm trying to eat, and she's looking at me.
Yeah.
And again, since I hadn't seen previews for any of these episodes, I did gasp with my mouth agape, and I was like, it's the Master.
I actually just watched the promo because I wanted to see what they showed. They did show Vamp, Willow, and Xander, but I don't think that they showed Mark Metcalf. I think they kept that as a surprise.
Yeah, it's a great
But
surprise.
again, in terms of, I know we, can't bring everybody back, but I would have really liked to have seen Julie Benz as Darla.
Yeah,
I also know that Julie and Allie had problems, so that's why she didn't really appear that much on Buffy. But, and also Brian Thompson would have been cool, so.
It would have been really cool, and we all love Darla. And Brian Thompson.
I mean, we didn't know Luke all that long to be able to love him. But also, I mean, you kind of have to get rid of them so that Xander and Willow can be the Master's
Basically
lieutenants.
the Master's lieutenant. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And also, in this scene, I like the mention of Xander having a crush on Cordelia.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, Xander presumably has been dead since the harvest.
Yeah.
I am going to guess that probably that's when everything went bad. That's when the Master rose. So Xander was at the Bronze that night. So he probably, was was vamped. I mean, maybe not, but he's been a vamp for a while at this point. So he admits to having a crush on Cordelia long before they hooked up, and I think honestly that makes sense to me. That that the We Hate Cordelia club was more of the We Love Cordelia club.
Oh, I've always
can't tell me that Willow might not have had a little thing for Cordy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, why
and also
you?
like,
Well, yes,
as a vampire now, I think Xander would be able to admit that.
Yeah, right.
True. Very
Which
true.
he wouldn't have when he was human.
Oh yeah.
Are you saying that being a vampire made Xander grow as a person?
No,
A little bit.
no. I'm saying it made him different as a person. If he's a person now, are vamps people?
Yes, but Xander doesn't have the inferiority complex and doesn't feel the need to front about things. He's more confident.
Yeah, he has more confidence. Yeah.
Both Xander and Willow making fun of Buffy's name was...
Yes.
It's always nice for them to, point out that Buffy is a really weird name. And I say that as somebody who Buffy is actually a nickname for my first name, so. Then, I mean, all of these scenes are very quickly cut together, and we get Cordelia waking up at the library, and Cordelia would be excellent at CinemaSins, because why is Giles there if Buffy isn't?
Bigger question, why, if they are a bunch of non-powered vampire fighters, are they still at the library?
I was wondering that
somebody's
too.
home.
Yeah.
Why would we needed to use their own sets, but whatever.
Because Giles, I guess.
Yeah, he's probably still the librarian.
I mean, I don't know why he's there at all, but
I mean, we'll get to
there,
that, but I need to
probably
take a moment of diversion to talk about Giles out of his tweed with Scruff. Okay? You knew it was coming.
Hello!
You knew it was coming.
So many people are so hot in this episode. It's
I know. They're all like extra freaking hot. And Giles
This is, I think, our thirstiest episode.
It's I'm thirsty for Giles most of the time. We all know this. I need a T-shirt that says "Thirsty for Giles."
I wonder if there's anybody who can do that.
I love hot librarians.
Make that wish, Andy. It might come true.
But I don't know. I'm sorry. The day-old Scruff and the sweater. Oh, okay. We can talk about the episode again now.
Basically, Wishverse Giles is 4th season Wesley.
Kind of.
Hot Wesley.
Wow.
My favorite Wesley.
Exactly.
Why do these British dudes get so bitter and so casual?
So anyway, I just had to divert there for a second to be thirsty.
Yeah, just another part of the why are they in the library? Well, obviously Giles has loads and loads of books, so he didn't have room in his apartment, so he needed the library to keep his book library there. The end. That's my headcanon now. And I'm
but apparently he still does keep certain volumes at home.
I was just, he does keep certain volumes at home, and they also had Giles's home set up because that's where the climax of the episode actually is. So
right. Well, Giles' apartment is the restricted section. So.
They can't actually work there because Oz would always be distracted by Giles's record collection.
That's exactly it. I don't know why Giles is there. I kind of
Why don't they lock the
care.
school at night? What the fuck? Oh, it bothers the fuck out of me.
Right, and that's okay for me to not care. Like, you guys, please speculate because I love to speculate. But
yeah, well, I mean, there is the question. It's like, why is Giles there? Why did Angel come there? Why didn't Angel go to Cleveland instead?
Yes.
Well, they say in the episode, though,
he got captured.
She was supposed to come.
She was supposed to come. Yeah.
She was supposed to be here.
Angel actually says that.
Angel actually says that.
Because Angel says, I waited for you.
Because that's where Whistler told him to go. Whistler led him towards Sunnydale. So, because of the Acathla thing, right? So, Whistler's whole mission was to get him to stop Acathla. So the mission there from the powers that be was to get him to Sunnydale, and she just never came.
This brings up interesting things for those interested in the mechanics of magic. It's like, where does the wish fall in? And this makes it clear that it actually falls... The actual change happens between Whistler telling Angel to go to Sunnydale and Buffy's actually getting to Sunnydale.
I just had a thought. The reason why this stuff does not make any sense is because Buffy not being in Sunnydale doesn't make any sense. It is something that is incredibly unnatural. It only happens because of the wish. And Cordelia's wish is very specific. It's, I wish Buffy Summers had never come to Sunnydale. That she didn't say anything about anybody else. So basically, that's the only thing that's going to change. about things, and it's just like the dominoes that happen from that.
I was about to say it's an unstable alternate universe, right? I just realized that.
Is it an alternate universe or is it a pocket universe?
Either pocket, alternate, whatever, but like it's an unstable pocket. It's not, again, it's only Buffy not coming to Sunnydale. Everybody else is there. So that was just my spitballing that I came up top of my head.
What's the distinction between an alternate and a pocket?
I know what the distinction is. Right now, this is an alternate universe. This is Cordelia's wish is powering. It has actually changed the fabric of reality. But once we get to Doppelgangland, it will become a pocket universe.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Because she gets transported out of that alternate universe into that pocket universe. So is that alternate universe not destroyed once Anya's center of power is destroyed?
Well, because in Doppelgangland, they're going back in time to the place where it was lost. So they're going back, so that's why it becomes a pocket universe, because the act of going back in time, it's shooty I-beam temporal mechanics.
But even then, I like that, in the grand scheme of things, it sort of holds up.
Given how Anya describes the multiverse later, with all the lack of shrimp, this universe should still exist, because it's a possible universe.
Why is Buffy in Cleveland in the first place? I don't remember why she would be there.
Because there's a Hellmouth.
There's a Hellmouth
there.
Okay, all right. So she went there instead of Sunnydale, because she was from Los Angeles in the original. Yeah.
Well, I think the reason why she is in Cleveland is because there was a wish made. Like, we actually don't know if Joyce is in Cleveland with her. We just know that Buffy is there. But
we don't really know anything.
We never really
about
get a reason as to why she's there. The assumption is that there's another Hellmouth.
Well, no, it's not an assumption. That is actually canon. They mention it in Chosen.
It's a recurring joke, actually, in the Buffyverse.
Yeah.
That there's another Hellmouth in Cleveland.
Yeah, it becomes canon in Chosen when they destroy the Hellmouth, and Giles says there's another one in Cleveland. In the season 9 comics, that's where the Slayer school kind of thing is.
And that's where Faith is based. She's in charge of Cleveland.
That's where Faith is based. And I think in the Angel comics, they say that after Sunnydale's destroyed, real estate in Cleveland goes up for demons. There are canonically 3 Hellmouths in the world: Sunnydale, Cleveland, and the Easter Island. And apparently a Hellmouth is created when someone used the Deeper Well, which is established in a hole in the world, to create a portal. It basically it thins the walls between realities. It's kind of bullshit, but then the Buffy comics are kind of bullshit.
Right.
So, but I did write down the information.
All right, thank you for the edification, because I wasn't sure, and it was really like, they never really explained it. I was like, when I was watching it, they never quite said, it's not like, I was like, but her family's not from Cleveland. Why would she, where's her mom? Where's her dad?
Well, I just assumed she was taken there by her watcher after she did all the shit with Lothos in LA. They're like, okay, here's the watcher. You know what I mean? Like, again, this is an unstable universe to me, because everything is the same except that Buffy's not there, based on Cordy's wish.
Usually with this type of, when they do in It's a Wonderful Life, you always got the character sees how bad that the universe is, and then at the very end of it, they're like, I want to go back, I don't want this wish to happen. But no, here, they fucking kill Cordy, and it's our Cordy.
My note says, Cordelia is Janet Leigh from Psycho.
Yes.
Spoilers for Psycho, because I don't... that movie's so old, I don't care.
I once found someone who hadn't seen it and didn't know.
Well, that's fine, but it's an old...
And I dragged them to see it. It was great.
It's an old enough movie that I don't feel weird about spoiling it. But, like, yeah, she's the Janet Leigh of the Wishverse.
But, they kill Gordy, and it's...
Yep. And she wants to go back immediate. She's like, what the fuck? Something bad happened. We need to fix this. No, immediate. I love that.
The note I have says, you totally can't tell me that vampire bites are not about sex. Like, right, like that...
When he puts his hand in her hair?
Right, and the whole...
That scene, that was the sexiest Xander and Willow were ever together.
Yeah.
Like, when he puts his hand on the back of her head, it's like what it took for Xander and Willow to be sexy was Cordelia between them.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
bring
you know what? I
bring
never
on
said
that
this.
OT3, baby.
But at the end of the episode, last week's episode, my last note was, "Hey, your solution, Willow, to I didn't know what I wanted. polyamory.
Yes.
I never actually said it out loud.
And the thing I learned from this episode, Xander and Willow are just a terrible couple.
Oh, yeah.
In any universe,
completely.
yeah,
It's
for
like,
sure.
I'm so glad it doesn't work out in the real universe because, oh god, they're awful together.
Well, I mean, it's funny, like, in this one, like, they do seem to, like, try to pull off, like, the Spike and Drew dynamic, but it does not work as a Spike and Drew dynamic. It's like,
No.
it's like they're a pale imitation.
They're also under the control, not control, but like of the master, right? So their roles and their dynamic is going to be changed. They're not like off on their own, like Spike and Drew, or the Fanged Four. So there's some of that, I think, in there too.
But we see them acting as a couple. Like,
they're
they
definitely
do work
a couple.
under the master's, orders, but them even working as a couple, they are trying to set up this Spike and Drew dynamic. And
it doesn't work at all.
I think it's because they're not in love. Yeah.
Ooh, interesting, yeah.
Shocking that the one person other than Cordelia who dies is the one person we don't know in the real universe.
I know, I'm like, who is this lady? She's dead. Okay, cool.
Nancy. I would have liked to see Nancy again. I like the look of her, and I like that sweater.
Yeah, that was nice.
It was a nice 90s sweater.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't see her again at any other time because she was really good.
You know who I would have loved to see as a white hat instead of this random lady who's fine? Like, actress is fine. Jonathan. He was already
where's Jonathan
in the episode.
Might as well.
Might as well
Yeah,
throw
hell.
Jonathan
Okay, I did
in
actually
instead.
wonder where he was. Like, did they assume, oh, well, he would have just been like vamp meat and like gotten killed? But yeah, actually, would have set him up nicely later on too.
I mean, Jonathan at this point would be food.
So, funny story. I actually did my own It's a Wonderful Life story in the Niazian Prophecies because I thought it was every Buffy series had to do that. And if I had done my season 3, I would have revisited it and had Jonathan from that universe have come back into the real universe, because I had an obsession with bringing back all of the nerd trio. So it's like, I'm going to bring alternate reality Jonathan into the real world.
Did Warren have skin when you brought him back?
Warren was cyborg.
That's fair enough.
I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, so yes, I totally would have liked Jonathan to have been in the Scooby Gang in this. Or they could have had Amy too. Because they mentioned Amy. Yeah.
Amy.
But I mean, not that
somebody with powers.
but I do like Nancy.
Oh, I do. Yeah, it's no diss on Nancy.
I mean, it really is a shame that she's there basically just to get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I would have liked to have seen her in the Prime universe later on, even if like nobody else knew her, but the audience went, "Oh, that's Nancy. That's kind of cool."
And that's something they would do on.
Well, I mean, isn't that exactly what happens in Mirror Mirror? That like the captain's woman is like the first time you see her is in the alternate universe, but then you see her in the real universe.
Then you
in the
see
end.
her.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yes.
it's like, oh, this is the new yeoman. Oh, I think we're going to be good friends. Ha ha ha. Says Kirk.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that kind of like dun dun dun, nice little reveal. So it would have been kind of cool just to see her like at school and like nobody knows who she is but us. Yeah. So yeah.
But moving on, we have a brief scene of the Master with Willow and Xander basically saying that Cordelia's dead, and Willow asks if she can go play with the puppy, but we don't know what the puppy is yet. And
it could be a literal puppy.
It could be.
I was thinking werewolf, but I was like, no, because Oz is already out there in the world. But it's like that would have been the better line, because why
it
do
would
you
have
call
been really good, but
Yeah.
it would have broken my heart.
Yeah.
I don't know, calling a vampire a puppy was still... I mean, I had forgotten who the puppy was when I watched this again. I was like, oh yeah, right, Angel.
One thing I noticed about this episode, because they have so much to establish, like this huge world, that there's a lot of very quick cuts. Like all of the scenes are very short because they have so much stuff they have to cover. But then we go back to Giles is calling to find Buffy somewhere.
Even in this, I mean, the Watchers Council is obviously dicks in every universe that don't pay any fucking attention to Giles.
But I think, well, we will definitely get into her more later on. But just talking about Buffy being on her own, and Buffy doesn't listen to her Watcher. Despite the fact that this is an alternate universe, Buffy at her core is still Buffy. Everything that we see in Wishverse Buffy, we see in real Buffy. And actually later on, like once we get to season 7, basically the only thing she is missing is the scar on her mouth.
Yeah. She is sort of, I think what maybe Wishverse Buffy was sort of what, it has shades of Faith.
I was going to say, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just like sort of a Buffy Faith amalgam.
I'm sure that's intentional.
Buffy. Yeah,
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, we will get more into that, but then we get to Willow playing with the puppy, and I'm uncomfortable with this scene.
We said this in an episode earlier, Xander is such a sub.
Yes.
He is 100% a sub. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way. Like, be what you want to be. But,
No.
He is, it's pretty obvious. He's like, I'm just going to watch and...
Dude, but the way she straddles David, Allie's not fucking around. I mean, she may not have nailed this character at first, but she was, like, on top.
Yes, she nailed Angel.
I do like the way she says, watch it. You almost burned my hair. Like, I don't know. It's like so...
Yeah, that was a good line.
Yeah, that's one of the good...
so flat in, like, a good way.
Yeah. No, the scene makes me so uncomfortable because I should hate this scene so much because it's so non-Connie, like, terrible, awful, but also, damn it, it's kind of hot.
Yeah.
Listeners, that is not sane, safe, and consensual BDSM, but it is an alternate universe of vampire, so we're okay with it. And she's torturing him. You know, she's 100% torturing the guy.
I mean, the point is that it's not.
That's 100%.
There were a shit ton of
there were.
Angel, Vampire Willow fics written. Like, I mean, not just puppy Angel, but like people were like Angelus and Vampire Willow, and
I would have gotten hard on board with that. Really on board.
But yeah, so
point me there.
Yeah,
she certainly was.
Boards would be involved.
Absolutely.
Allie's delivery of "Watch It, You Almost Got My Hair," and as much as Xander annoys me, I do also I just like to watch you work. He delivered that really well.
And that actually establishes their dynamic in just 2 lines, right? Their vampire dynamic. It's very subtle piece of writing. And there's some ham-fisted writing in this, but that is a nice subtle, like, oh, I see how it works, you guys. I see how it works.
And the White Hats find the necklace, and again, like, we get some really nice Larry stuff. Larry's really fucking good.
Love it.
Yeah.
A little bit of the dynamic between these 3 guys who obviously have formed like a bond with each other the same way the Scoobs have. Like the concern that Oz has for Giles. Like, he speaks to him like an honest friend.
They don't care much about Nancy, apparently, but, you know.
But I think in this reality, when they have their monthly memorial, it's you get used to, like, I'm betting that this group probably was, you know what, Jonathan and Amy might have been part of this group at one point. It's just they dead now.
Yeah.
They're dead now.
Yeah, they're just so used to it that they can't spend time mourning and being sad because they've got to fight to keep going.
It's the MASH effect,
I'm looking this up just because I wanted to see. Larry Bagby is still working really consistently, and I just...
Oh, that's
he is. I know he was in Walk the Line. I totally was like, oh my god, Larry Bagby. But I did see him in an episode of 911, which is a total trash show that I can't quit. I don't know why. And I was like, oh, it's Larry. But like, he's still working, which, you know, I'm excited by that. So, Larry, come on our podcast.
Oh, that's good for him. He's a very nice guy. I talked to him a couple of times online back in the day. So he was one of those early adopters to
the posting board, right?
Because I mean, obviously these days with like Twitter and Instagram, like, it's so easy to, like, you know, get in contact with celebrities, and he was just, I think he actually like joined a mailing list or something, and he's just like, hey, like, here I am. It might have been a Larry fan group, because like I probably was on a Larry fan group because I really loved Larry, but yeah, he was nice. And
I'm gonna say that, like, I find Wishverse Larry very attractive. Very attractive.
And so Giles ends up driving through Sunnydale and ends up, he's trying to save some people, but even in an alternate universe, Giles has to get knocked down. Yeah.
Right.
But he gets up again.
No one's gonna keep him down.
And Buffy, as we've pointed out before, Buffy's look in this is so very similar to Kendra's in Becoming.
Yeah.
Are we talking about Buffy showing up now?
We are talking about Buffy now. This is the first appearance of Wishverse Buffy.
Queer out, Logan.
Go for it, Logan.
Great. My note is Wishverse Buffy, my soft butch dream girl.
I'm into Buffy at all times. I think
this is, I just like scary women.
Yeah,
okay?
no.
I like very cool. women. I like very strong women. I like very scary women. And she is two of those things.
She's all of them but tall.
Because
two of those two things,
I'm
yes.
super hot for Wishverse Buffy. I'm
Lord.
into it.
Cargo pants, boots, tank top. Check. Good. Awesome. Great. Doing great. I'm fine. I'm so hot and sweating. I'm sweating.
Oh, the thirst
these
is
are
real.
these are Logan's notes verbatim.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Oh, the thirst of this episode. Oh, my God.
The thirst.
I'm back. We're good.
That's the thing. This episode has something for everyone.
I mean, it's so weird. Like, when I was first watching this episode, I wasn't thinking, it's like, oh my God, in the summary, I'm going to have to mention just the thirst of it all. But now that we're doing this, I'm like, yes.
Yes, it's something for everyone. It's got girls in leather, boys in leather, Scruffy Giles, Larry, Oz, the Master if you're really into kinky stuff.
A real kinky stuff. I do.
Something for everyone. Oh, sorry, Angel in Bondage. I forgot about him. So
Yeah, but he's kind of pathetic, Angel. Even more than usual, there are fewer people of color in this particular episode, and I wonder about the Master's like sort
choice?
Of narrative and like
Ooh.
we are the superior race and kind of thing like that. I wonder if that.
Yeah,
that would not
fun.
surprise me at all.
Well, you do notice the first person that gets sacrificed.
That's what I was just
to the
about to say,
factory
yeah.
is like the only person of color in this.
Color, exactly.
yeah, it's like, hey, let's pull the Asian chick and then throw her on the machine. So yeah,
Mm-hmm. Which is a very inefficient machine in my opinion.
Well,
I was going to point that out.
We'll get into the machine.
yeah, we'll get to that.
We will get
But no, that's a really good point. I think I'm hoping that was like an actual conscious choice.
Oh, I'm sorry. The other person
the
of
whole-
color is
yeah.
being casually racist by Cordelia.
Oh, yeah. That
Right,
is-
Yeah.
the custodian earlier. Okay, so yeah, Giles and
Giles and Buffy
gets knocked
together,
out.
and Buffy is just being so hard, but she's still Buffy. It's like you can still, and like I do compare it to season 7 Buffy when she's, been hardened by everything that's going on. There's nothing here that really is not our Buffy. It's just that she's not had the same support system around her. And we will even see later on in the show that Buffy does isolate herself.
It's another costuming note. I thought it was, and it's the first time I ever realized that because I was really looking at it. The fact that Giles is back in a blazer when he gets all Watcher with Buffy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's not like his normal tweety, but like, we've seen him in this like slouchy sweater and with a, but when he's in his apartment again, obviously when he's, he had the coat on, but when he was trying to fight the vampires, but you get back to the apartment and he talks about Watcher things and research, he's back in a blazer. And I thought that was a really interesting, very small costuming choice. So I just wanted to bring that up.
I like that a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, it's almost like he puts on the
never made that
uniform to be the Watcher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is great. Nice
if we're going to
catch.
talk about uniforms consistently throughout this episode that everybody's wearing. If we're going to stick with the cookie me metaphor, this Buffy, a little overbaked.
Yes.
I like a crunchy cookie.
Well, and it also shows that how much of an effect that not just Willow and Xander, that Giles has had on her life. Because we don't know what her Watcher is like, but I suspect.
But we know that most Watchers
I
suck.
suspect she was taken from LA. We don't know if Joyce is in her life or if that Watcher did what Watchers are supposed to do and isolated her from everything. And it just again shows, and this is not my thirst speaking, this is my absolute devotion to him as a character, how much Giles is so different and how much I think his background as Ripper and the mistakes he made in his life reflect on who he is as a Watcher, as a human being, and his understanding and empathy towards Buffy and him allowing, I use quote fingers, her to develop as the person she should be. And we saw in the last episode how much love and care he put into wanting her to go to college and wanting her to have a life and work-life balance. And like this Buffy is a Buffy without her friends, but mostly it's a Buffy without Giles.
Well, Buffy in this, I think we hear in the conversation with Giles and Buffy's Watcher that Buffy only checks in like every couple of weeks or whatever. So I think by this point she has been the Slayer long enough, and she's probably been, at this point in her life, she's probably been the Slayer longer than most people. I think that the Slayer probably usually has a shelf life of like 2 years or something. I think the Slayers that lasted the longest were Buffy, Faith, and Nikki Wood, and Faith only survived because she was in prison most of that time. But
yeah,
and also Buffy died twice in that time. But so I think Buffy has gained a certain amount of training so that she's able to actually work away from her Watcher. And the only reason Giles works so closely with Buffy is because of his paternal love for her. And we'll actually see that come up in season 5 and 6, where he starts to pull, and even season 4, when he starts to pull away from Buffy and is like, you don't actually need me to, like, give you, like, this, close training. You are to a point where you can do it yourself, and it's only the fact that he loves her so much that really keeps him in her life. So I think that her Watcher at this point is like, yeah, she can handle herself, and frankly, she's a tool. Eventually she'll die. So
I also love that.
Who plays her?
Even in this universe, Giles didn't go, the Slayer didn't show up, I'm going back to England. He stayed to fight, and he stayed to do what is right, and actually nurture and probably be a father figure for Larry and Nancy and Oz. And like, you can even feel in those little scenes the really great chemistry between all of them as a group of white hats together. So it makes me love Giles even more, that he stayed and he worked and he did what was right. So that's my Giles speech today.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to be annoying and do my usual, why is this? And I know the answer is because plot. How does Buffy get there that fast?
Maybe she's on
an airplane?
Why would she be on her? No, I mean, she gets there, what, an hour or two after Giles makes the phone call?
Well, we don't know exactly what the time is, so...
Yeah, because they
even
don't know
if
where
we
she
leave
is.
aside... Right, no, but I mean, if she's based in Cleveland, she's not going to be out of state.
Wait. Didn't the Master say that the factory was opening the next day? So I think there might be some editing problems, but I think that...
Oh, maybe.
I think these are actually... I think Cordelia died on one night, and then Buffy showed up the next night, because Buffy basically goes straight to the factory. And we'll get into the next part where she stops by the bronze to find the Master, but he is not there, and the only person that is there is Angel, and... just like Giles gets knocked out in every universe, Angel has to take off his shirt in front of Buffy in every universe.
Thank you. They had to do it so hard. They had to work so hard to get him to show his damn...
I have to say, though, I give Angel points in this scene. Because instead of being whiny and saying, but I'm a vampire with a soul, he cuts straight to the chase and goes, look, I want the Master dead as much as you do.
I'll give it to David. And everybody else has been really thirsty over this episode, but it's kind of hot the way he pulls open his shirt and showing all the scars underneath it.
Yeah.
What I think is really impressive about Angel doing this is that he gets the measure of this version of Buffy real quickly.
Yes.
He's like, this is what will convince her that I'm not going to hurt her, and that I have a goal outside of my destiny. Which is, gives Angel some depth that I don't necessarily think he previously had his character.
Well, I think it almost reflects the first appearance of Angel, like when he was still Mysterious Guy, and the cryptic interactions that they had with each other. And actually, Angel was very to the point when he was cryptic, but he was to the point where he's like, "We gotta fight the vampires." And Angel here is just like, "I want to kill that guy. I really want to kill him."
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
I had a thought during this episode about Angel around this time. So, we know he's still seen Buffy outside of the school, and Whistler sent him to Sunnyvale. And he does try to proactively help and fight, and I suspect that's in the Harvest because there's no Buffy. So it leads me to believe that, and this is no shade on the Bangle thing, the Bangle shippers, that without this grand love, this grand obsessive love, he's more connected to actually his mission as a champion than he was when he was wrapped up in Buffy stuff. So that's just my little point there.
Okay. All right.
Well, that certainly fits in with what happens when he moves over to Angel.
Right.
The show, because he's cuts himself off from Buffy and finds his calling.
Here is something I am going to throw out there. Do we know that Angel has been captive since the Harvest? We do not.
We do not.
And I would actually...
No.
I would actually argue probably he hasn't, because as much as they enjoy, playing with the puppy, I think they would eventually get tired of him over 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that Angel was a white hat for a while?
Oh,
good question.
Fan fiction happened.
Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
Because I
kind
of like the idea of combining like the white hats with like this proto Angel investigations.
And that Angel is in that world, and that he does actually help. I'd love that. It's great.
I could very much see that. That is... I think that absolutely fits with what we know.
Some of the issues that come up when we find out in the episode Angel that he is a vampire could have happened with the white hats and how that played and what that... Oh, yeah. Fanfic that all day, what that dynamic is. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I mentioned this on Facebook the other day, that this is the life I live, where it's like MC comes up with fanfic ideas.
Yes.
And like I said, that's like a podcast of its own. We just sit there and throw ideas at you and come up with stories that people should write that we don't have time to do. Yeah. So
we'll call it Release the Plot Bunnies.
Right.
Yeah.
Why is it bunnies?
But we move on to the master at the factory, and I love this because it's, as much as it's just great seeing the master back, it's also really great to see a different version of the master, because he is different. Because the master in season 1 was so ritualized. Everything was about ritual, and everything was, about the stars aligning and prophecy. But then this master, he's almost got a Mr. Trick-like attitude.
Yeah.
I literally, in my early draft of my notes, I was like, God, what he and Mr. Trick could have done together.
Yeah.
Would have been dangerous.
I think this actually fits in perfectly with his love of ritual.
Yeah.
I mean, what is mass production except ritualized
Creation?
Manufacture?
Yeah. But I think maybe, from another standpoint, it could be rather that he fulfilled his destiny. He what did it, rose or ascended or whatever. Wait, that's the mayor. Anyway, he is
rose. I think.
Yeah. He fulfilled this prophecy. He is this thing, and now he's like, well, all that happened. So I guess maybe I should get with the times and be like super forward thinking, but maybe a little Nazi-ish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think
see that.
they both work.
Yeah.
Here's some mass production. Who else utilized that? Mm-hmm. But that's neither here nor there, honestly. So yeah, I wonder if it's less ritual and more like, well, it looks like I'm going to live for a lot longer, so I might as well make a positive impact in the vampire world. A legacy.
Arbeit macht Blut.
I enjoy vampires who do this kind of stuff, and I am not just saying that. I'm totally just saying that because the vampires in my book series are a lot closer to the master in this than the randomly biting people on the streets. But
it's inefficient.
Okay, let's talk about the machine now.
Ugh.
Oh, I meant biting people in the street, but the machine is inefficient too.
Yeah, but
the machine's
biting.
Go
for the aorta. Go for the femoral. You're good. Quick, easy, less machinery. Stupid.
Yes.
I shouldn't say stupid.
I mean, they're basically just like sticking pipes into people,
right?
At random
You're
places.
Getting meat out too, like. You gotta have a filtration system if you're not smart about it.
Feels like some machine wonk designed this just to show off like how spiffy they could make a machine without thinking about efficiency.
Yeah, I think the design of the machine is bad, and I don't think they really thought it through, though it did make me think of Firefly when River is talking about the human body can be drained of blood in however many seconds given a proper vacuum system or whatever the line is. So that's immediately what I thought of. It is terrible. Like there should be there's very specific places that you should be poking.
Right.
Crotch.
Yeah. Basically, you're. I can't think of the vein now. Your neck. Carotid artery. Yeah.
Carotid artery, the femoral. Yeah.
I think there's. I can't remember which vampire series. I think it may have been Anne Rice, but there's a mention that there's an artery in like your inner thigh that drains really quickly.
Yeah.
There's like parts of the body, not like your arms and your legs and like I said, I have this like vision of this very very nerdy vampire sitting there and like designing shit and just like spending like hours and hours to do something spiffy because they can, rather than something that's going to be efficient and get the job done.
That's not a nerdy vampire. That's a vampire who's full of himself. Nerdy vampires would actually give a damn about how the thing works.
Well, I think it's somebody who wants to do like nerdy but spiffy,
But you see this in this idea of like sort of mass production of blood in the third Blade movie.
I haven't
yeah,
seen any of the
I
Blade
forget.
movies.
Yeah, me neither.
Good call. Good
I've
call
only
on
watched
the part.
I've watched the CinemaSins videos for the Blade movies.
See, what I never knew was that in the third one, shit with Wesley Snipes was so bad they had to CGI his eyeballs in because he would do the scenes with his eyes closed and communicate
Oh,
with the
Ryan
director and
Reynolds
post-it
has told
notes.
stories about just
Holy
how
shit.
awful he was. Wouldn't speak to anyone on set. So yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they essentially like put these human bodies in vacuum sealed things. They have them in a coma, and they just keep them alive through fluids and stuff. But they're a constant blood source.
Oh.
It's just more.
Well, that's actually a neat idea, though. I mean, the fact that
Whereas
instead of
here
killing
they
somebody,
just kill them
yeah,
right before they put them in the machine.
Yeah, I
for
mean,
the
I've
freshness.
seen it.
The master is wonderful. I love. There's like people say, well, I don't
that
say
line.
anything to them because I
love
kill
my
them.
sass.
It's just,
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Nicole Biderbeck, who was in every WB show during the 90s, and it's still where I looked her up again. She was in like Clueless, wasn't she? I think
she might
no,
have
I
the
think she
show
was
or
in
the
movie.
movie.
So,
Maybe.
yeah.
And she's still working today, and I'm always like, hey, she's there.
Not only was she in like every WB show, she was like in every '90s movie too. Like she
Yeah, 'cause
nearly
she was
slept
in-
with Seth Green in Bring It
Yeah.
On. She was,
Yeah, she was
in
in-
and not in Bring It
Wait.
On and Can't Hardly Wait. She was
Can't
on the
Hardly Wait.
cheerleading squad.
Thank you,
in
I was-
Bring It On. She was just
Bring It On with
everything.
Eliza
Yeah.
Dushku, yeah.
Yeah, she's in everything. So
Yeah, but-
Dawson's Creek, tons and tons of stuff. So good on her.
I'm sure she still looks amazing.
So just going back briefly to the machine, the thing that really bothers me, other than the fact that they should be poking in very specific places, is that they don't seem to actually be extracting all that much blood.
no.
It's because the hoses are clogged with meat. Human meat.
Probably.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you would think that there would be a reservoir or something, like, or that there would be
Yeah.
more places for, like, cups to be filled up, but they only fill up that, like, itty-bitty little goblet, and they don't even fill it all the way. And, I mean, I know they're just, like, testing it out, but, I mean, it's, like, the whole reason for this seems to be, like, the idea of biting somebody is really inefficient because, one, you're grabbing people off the streets and you're just kind of biting into their neck, and apparently sometimes you can, bite into their windpipes so that you blow out cigarette smoke. But also you're not going to be draining them because they always say, I'm draining them, but you know that vampires are never draining them completely.
No. I mean, my assumption here is that the blood they extract goes into a reservoir, and the pipe that they pour the blood from into the glass is just from the reservoir.
It's like a keg. But
Yeah,
I'm sorry, it
exactly.
just occurred to me that scene where Angelus comes back proves that Angel's a big baby, because you know who can breathe and drink at the same time? Babies. Lose that ability as we get older. But babies can. Sorry. Right, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I was going to say is in terms of inefficiency, the thing, the whole point of they should also be using gravity so they should be hanging either by their necks or by their feet, so that the blood pools in one spot and it's easier to like pull it out instead of lying there flat on their back where everything's going to settle to the bottom. Yeah, and I'm not even like
They need an
I'm not even
abattoir.
somebody who knows their physics well. Yeah, they just need a much better system than they've got. Whoever designed this was.
It's
I mean,
terrible.
yeah, the machine is terrible.
terrible
It's so flawed.
system.
I think I'm feeling like the master's like over hunting. He's so old that he's just like, just bring me the fucking blood. I don't want to go out and hunt. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem like it's his jam anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, obviously vampires make very lousy engineers. So, mechanical engineers.
But Buffy and Angel arrive, and Buffy sarcastically tells Angel not to fall on the stake.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, everything is so intercut together because then we also get Giles summoning Anyanka.
Right.
But it's just very, very brief when he's, doing spelly words and shooty IB magic. And then we get back to the factory, and I want to know how being shot with the crossbow in the chest didn't kill Xander.
I did too.
It doesn't go anywhere near his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes nowhere
You
near
see the
his
blood
heart.
spot after he pulls it out and he goes after.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I think
It's-
the first, maybe they changed it, but when they first showed where it hit, it did look like it could have killed him. But I also the Buffyverse is very inconsistent as to where exactly somebody should be stabbed, because back in just a couple episodes ago when Candy was impaled on the spatula, that was basically in her stomach.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it was not wood.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
We went through this.
Maybe it had a wooden handle. Who knows?
Yeah. But, I mean, everything about this, the intercuts of Giles and Anyanka and the fight, it's the fight itself actually isn't all that good. It's just kind of chaos.
Yeah, I put in my notes, it's fighty. But then we get those, once it goes slow-mo is when it gets interesting.
What makes this so different than every other fight where it's just fighty, kicky, punchy is that the emotional stakes that are going on in this. Everything that happens.
Stakes!
It's literally a fight for their lives at this point here.
Well, I mean, it's not even that. Just the fact that everything that we feel about these characters that they are not feeling, because you have just when Xander, who in the real world hates Angel, just cold-heartedly, it's just perfunctory, just stabbing Angel, and Buffy just doesn't fucking care. She walks through Angel's dust. Does not notice.
Oh, and Oz kills Willow.
And Oz kills
Which
Willow.
I thought was a really nice little, oh my god.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and he doesn't care.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't know her, and he just wants her dead. Yeah.
And Supporto Gal stabs Xander, just does not care. So everything is...
Yep. And the Master kills Buffy
kills
again.
Buffy, fulfilling the prophecy, because even if Buffy didn't come to Sunnydale, the prophecy still
exactly.
stands.
I was like, that was...
That's a good point. Maybe he was just tired of waiting around.
And it just also shows, as pissed as I've been at Willow and Xander, how their ecosystem works in Prime Universe, right? How much they actually need each other. And I don't mean in the way of for Buffy to protect them, that Giles being a parental figure to all of them, because except for Joyce, as she gets better, they all have shitty parents, the lesson that we all see is how tied we are to each other's lives, and how that kind of support system does build you up. You know what I mean? So that's just... And makes you a better person and a better friend and a better human being when you have unconditional support in many ways. So, it breaks my fucking heart.
And just the faith that Giles has when Anyanka asks, how do you know that the other world is better than this? And Giles says it has to be.
And that Giles is a hero in all universes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a constant.
Oh, are we getting into Lost? Do you want to do Lost? Sorry. No, sorry.
No.
No. Been there, done that.
Hey. Oh, really?
Yeah.
But Giles breaks the necklace, and we're back to the real world.
I was going to say that this is the only time we'll ever hear of computer voice for Anyanka.
That is true. But I think also
scare.
part of that is because when we see Anyanka in season 7, that's not Anyanka, that's Anya.
Good point. Really good point.
She's gone native.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, because I think actually Helfrek, she does.
Oh, they do have some scary voice stuff for
Helfrek.
Helfrek. Yeah, maybe it is just Anya being Anya instead of Anyanka. Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
maybe.
But we go back to the real world, bright. And it's bright, and it's so weird because so much has happened, but nothing has happened
for them.
It's almost like this is a play. This is a really scary, dark play.
It was all a dream.
And wonders if Anya was ever like, hey, so nobody knows about this universe. Not even Anya, who created it.
Anya knows because she's going to try to
get
it.
That's what I'm saying.
She knows about Doppelgangland. And I do think that Anyanka retains memories of things that happen that other people don't. She's got a sort of a sense about that. But one thing that must be brought up is the fact that Giles has wrong information in his book, because it says if destroying the power center of the Vengeance Demon undoes all the spells that she's cast. That is false.
Not true.
It only undoes the last one, because we know that one of Anyanka's previous spells led to the Russian Revolution of 1905.
Oh, and also, What's-His-Face is still stuck in the hammer. Or What's-His-Face is still a troll.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that was pre-Vengeance Demon.
Okay, so...
That was just a spell.
She cast that spell, but it wasn't...
Yeah, but it was... She was mortal.
Was
mortal at that time. And also, there's the dude from Hell's Bells that's
Yeah.
still a demon. But I think the Russian Revolution.
It's my
thing
favorite.
is
I'm like, I love that.
It's really obvious.
Yeah.
Good point.
Okay, I'm glad that they're just wrong, because otherwise there's that takes care of a lot of my questions. Not all of my questions, but a lot of them.
And also, really funny that Cordelia is making all of these wishes, and one of those wishes she makes is that Xander will never know the touch of a woman. And it's like, he'll know the touch of that woman right behind you.
Yeah.
So, final thoughts on the wish.
So good.
And despite whatever flaws that we've picked up here and there, it's still a really good episode, and it's really, I mean, I think it's well written, well directed, mostly well acted. Costumes, as we've said over and over, are just like to die for, and just like fucking on point. It's just, I mean, you know, I love alternate universe stuff just in general. That's one of the tropes that I enjoy the most, and this one is done so well that it's just great. And like I said, it's one of those episodes that I would force people to sit down and watch if I was trying to get them into Buffy.
I agree with Jan. I alternate universe is my crack. I love it, and what changes and what doesn't, and core personality. I think it's, and to be able to see all these beloved characters and actors, even though we were like iffy on, you know, Allie's stuff, it's still interesting to see these characters we know and love be different yet the same. So I adore this episode so much.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite episodes of the season, far and away. I will watch it just to watch it because I enjoy it. But also, I think what I can take away from not just the episode, but our discussion, we'd be better at farming humans than vampires. We could do it really well.
Well, no surprise there.
You are a Slytherin, Miss Logan.
Okay, that doesn't mean I would automatically farm people. If it were the most efficient and best way to get me where I need to go, then I would.
That sounds more like Ravenclaw to me.
Yeah, and see, me as a Hufflepuff will, you know, I make sure that it was humane and comfortable and, you know, fast and whatever. But yeah, if we needed to do it.
As a Hufflepuff, I would be the white hat that disappears in the first episode because I have no stamina for running away.
Well, I don't either, so.
Well, I echo pretty much all of that. But I do want to bring up one thing about interesting thought that occurred to me about the Vengeance Demon thing. We see Vengeance Demons a few times in Buffy.
That is true.
And, you know, we see them granting people's wishes. And we learn later on in season 6 that Vengeance Demons tend to have specialties.
Yes.
Something that appeals to them particularly. But it really seems to me that the Vengeance Demons really aren't that interested in the people whose wishes they grant. They're not. Like, Anya here is just like, wow, this was a great wish because it fucked everything up.
Well, Vengeance Demons, you can kind of look at them like most, or not most, but a lot of modern literature take genies. The whole be careful of what you wish for. This dark, you know, you can make a wish, but it's always going to have a twist to it. Vengeance Demons.
I'm sorry. Yes. We prefer Justice Demons. Just FYI. I had to quote Hallie.
Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, it's basically they're anthropomorphic monkeys.
Yes. Yeah.
But
yeah, and I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's in the name. They're demons. You see, I mean, what would it benefit for vampires to have the world sucked into a black hole or whatever the fuck Agothla did or whatever? What would be the benefit for them? They'd go to, and they'd live in a hell dimension. That's, for some reason, the goal of a lot of demons. I don't know why. It seems like they'd have more fun with, like, torturing innocent souls on this plane of reality, but whatever. So, yeah, I like the idea of them being the classic genie. You're going to get what you want, but you may not like it.
Yeah.
You probably won't like it.
Yeah, and I think they're also just very creative because they always give people what they want. It's just always, you know, a really creative spin on it. They also, in the comics, they do get more into D'Hoffryn as a demon, as a character. I don't care for the comics all that much, but still I will shout out the fact that the Hoffren gets a storyline in the comics, and by the by, Jonathan's back, and he is a Vengeance Demon too.
Yeah. Spoilers for the comics.
How canonical are How canonical are they considered?
The comics are they're considered canonical. Basically,
all of them?
No. The comics, the ones that they've come out with
Season 8 and beyond.
Yeah, they've streamlined things. Like everything that came out actually during the show is non-canonical.
Right,
yeah.
But everything since the show, all the spin-offs and everything.
Yes, the only one where it gets a little touch and go is the
IDW Angel stuff.
The IDW Angel stuff, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, and
okay.
Isn't Joss
they had to get
even
Dark Horse
remotely? He's remotely connected, or
he's back.
oversees
He's
something.
actually back writing for the comic.
Giles currently has a miniseries out being done.
Yeah, I haven't read them. I've read synopses and stuff, and they just
I haven't read them yet.
Look and sound so awful in general that I
Giles is a teenager right now.
Season 9 is not very good. The Faith and Angel comics I actually enjoyed quite a bit. I actually enjoy Faith and Angel, and that Buffy has totally been together for like 2 seasons at this point, and they're working out their shit. But that's just me.
Okay, anyways, so I'm going to echo what everybody else said about this episode. This one's one of my favorite ones of the season. Might be one of my favorite ones of the show.
Me too.
This one is really great. It's a great one to just watch and just enjoy watching it because it's a nice standalone, even though it has all of this emotional stuff. Basically at this point, every episode of Buffy has some sort of emotional tie to episodes that came before or after it. So just having one that you can just watch and that's all you need to watch, that's always really cool. In terms of trivia, this episode was listed on The Last Sunset featurette on the Season 7 DVD as one of Joss's favorites, and it was also listed on the Australian Chosen Collector's box set as one of his favorites, so he really likes this episode. And it's the only episode on that list that he did not write. I mean, granted, he probably wrote something related to it because he's Joss, but he was not. All of the other episodes that were listed, he was actually credited as writing. So I think that's a testament to this episode. And this is also the favorite of Charisma Carpenter and Todd McIntosh, who was the makeup supervisor.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, nice.
And in terms of music, when Cordelia leaves the Bronze, we've got Get Out of My Way by Music House. When Vamp Willow and Vamp Xander enter the Bronze, it's Dedicated to Pain by Plastic. When Willow, Buffy, and Xander are watching Cordelia at the Bronze, it's Tired of Being Alone by The Spies. And when Cordelia is making wishes at the end, it's Never Noticed by Ginger Saul. And wow, all of those names, those titles are really appropriate to the scenes that they're in.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, someone's on point with the music selections. So next week, we're going to be celebrating Christmas. And we're going to be reviewing Amends, and I am going to have a lot to say about that one. Until then, grr, arg.
Grr and the arg.
Grr, arg.
Grr, arg.
Grr, arg.
We'd like to thank everyone who downloaded the podcast, and an extra special thanks to everyone who shared, liked, and subscribed on social media. If you'd like your questions or comments read on the show, you can contact us on our website, returntothehellmouth.com, on YouTube, Tumblr, and Facebook at Return to the Hellmouth, on Twitter at HellmouthReturn, or on email at returntothehellmouth@gmail.com. We'll be sure to read your comments on the show. Be sure to rate our show at iTunes and Stitcher, and check out our show merchandise on TeePublic and Redbubble. See you on Tuesday.
Grr, arg.